Episode 2 picks up with Hall handing John the ring so he can learn to fly. It doesn't go smoothly. John imagines a bird construct, and when he takes off the ring, the bird doesn't disappear. John, who can't even fly, build a sentient construct. Normally, any Green Lantern's construct vanishes the instant the rings comes off. John's didn't. It kept flying on its own miles away from him, and it was sentient enough to actively try to stop members of Anton's group. That's not a small detail. That's the show establishing very early that John Stewart's willpower operates on a different level than a rookie Lanterns usually does. This tracks with something John Stewart actually did in the comics. In Justice League Volume 4, John used raw willpower to bring a Green Lantern ring into existence from nothing. That's an extraordinary feat even by Green Lantern standards, and it lines up with the broader comic trait. John's constructs are known for being unusually precise, built solid all the way through, instead of hollow, sometimes down to an atomic level of detail. If the show is quietly building toward that version of John, a construct that refuses to disappear in episode 2 isn't an accident, it's a seed. The episode's biggest reveal is the actual source of danger in Rushville. By this point, you might have heard about them. There are a lot of YouTubers talking about Manhunters, a robotic police force with no emotions, meant to enforce order across the universe. The Manhunters concluded that all crime traces back to emotion, and emotion only exists in organic life. Their solution was horrifyingly simple: eliminate organic life entirely to eliminate crime. They tested this in Sector 666, wiping out nearly everyone there. Only 5 survivors were left, and they blamed the Guardians directly for creating the machines that did it. I mean, you know, the blame game always works. The Guardians tried to shut the Manhunters down completely, but couldn't get all of them. Some escaped and went into hiding across the universe, and their mission never changed: wipe out organic life and take down Guardians and their Green Lanterns as well. Worth noting, the show gives its Manhunters an ability they don't traditionally have in the comics: shape-shifting and infiltration. I mean, CGI is expensive, and after the success of Supergirl, they have to invent ideas to stop wasting money. Okay, replicating bodies and quietly embedding themselves in a society for years, even decades, that's not comic accuracy. That's the writers building their own twist on a top of source material, and that's a genuinely unsettling one. A Manhunter hiding in Rushville wouldn't need to announce itself. It could be just living there as someone you'd never suspect. Anton, the alien explaining all of this to John, isn't a character that exists in the comics under that name, but the leader of the Sector 666 survivors in the source material is very well-known DC villain, Atrocitus, founder of the Red Lanterns, a lantern corps powered by pure rage instead of willpower. There is one more detail here that's easy to miss out but does real thematic work. Before Anton's lay out the Manhunter history, he put John through a kind of force empathy device, showing him what the Sector 666 genocide actually felt like, not just what happened. John's bird construct fight back against this. That's worth pausing on, because fear is explicitly established as the opposite of willpower on this show, and the device forcing that trauma onto John glows yellow, not green. Green has meant willpower every time we have seen it so far. Yellow means fear. So the bird isn't just defending John physically, it's willpower reacting against something built entirely out of fear, which is the exact same tension the whole season keeps circling back to. In the comics, Sinestro isn't just a former Green Lantern. He trained under Abin, became close enough to marry Abin's own sister Erin, and was considered the single greatest Green Lantern in the Corps, having personally wiped out crime in his entire sector. Hall was his final student before things went wrong between them. Here's what actually went wrong. Sinestro started ruling his home planet through fear instead of protecting it, which put him in direct conflict with the Guardians. So when Sinestro talks about fear being dangerous, he is not being Socrates. He built his entire second act out of it. When Hall asks him about Manhunter, Sinestro doesn't dismiss the threat. His actual response is close to, if one still exists, that's the second greatest threat you are currently facing, before turning it around and asking Hall to tell him about John Stewart instead. That's Sinestro, a character famous for its own ego and menace. You see the face expressions of Hall? I think his fear-instilling trick is working. Here's why I think this episode matters more than a typical setup episode usually does. It establishes a threat whose entire philosophy is uniquely dangerous for this specific show. The manhunters didn't fail because they were weak, they failed because their logic was internally consistent and monstrous at the same time. That's a much scarier villain premise than a simple power threat. And pairing it with Sinestro very rare admission of fear tells you the show knows exactly how much weight that idea can carry.